For years, I was a master of the hustle. My days were filled with a relentless pursuit of success, driven by an insatiable need to prove myself. I was the first to arrive at the office and the last to leave, fueled by caffeine and ambition. My calendar was packed with meetings, deadlines, and endless to-do lists that seemed to grow longer by the day. I wore my busyness like a badge of honor, convinced that this was the path to achievement and respect. Yet beneath the surface of my professional facade, a storm was brewing. The signs of burnout crept in quietly at first, like shadows at the edges of my mind. I began to feel a constant fatigue, a heaviness that seemed to settle in my bones. My creativity, once a vibrant force, began to dim. I found myself staring blankly at my computer screen, struggling to muster the energy to tackle even the simplest tasks. The joy I once felt in my work was replaced by a sense of dread, and I started to question my purpose. My relationships suffered as well. I was too exhausted to connect with friends and family, retreating into myself while the world continued to spin around me. It wasn't until a particularly grueling week, when I had pulled 3 all-nighters in a row to meet project deadlines, that I hit my breaking point. I remember sitting in my car after yet another exhausting day, tears streaming down my face as I realized I could no longer keep up the facade. I felt trapped in a cycle of stress and anxiety, and the weight of it all was suffocating. That night, I made a decision. I needed to change the trajectory of my life. I needed to find a way back to myself. The journey to reclaim my peace began with a simple act of acknowledgement. I had to confront the reality of my situation and admit that I was burned out. It was a humbling moment, but it was also liberating. I started to seek help, reaching out to a therapist who specialized in burnout and stress management. In our sessions, I learned to articulate my feelings and explore the roots of my anxiety. It became clear that my self-worth had been intricately tied to my professional achievements, and I had lost sight of who I was outside of my career. With the guidance of my therapist, I began to implement small changes in my daily routine. I started to prioritize self-care, carving out time for activities that nourished my soul. I took long walks in nature, rediscovered the joy of reading, and learned to meditate. At first, these practices felt foreign. My mind raced with thoughts of unfinished tasks and looming deadlines. But as I persisted, I began to notice subtle shifts within myself. Moments of stillness became a refuge, a space where I could breathe and reconnect with my inner self. One of the most profound lessons I learned was the importance of setting boundaries. I had always believed that saying no was a sign of weakness, but I soon realized that it was an act of self-respect. I started to decline additional projects that didn't align with my values or goals. I learned to communicate my needs to my colleagues, fostering a culture of openness and support. This shift not only alleviated my workload, but also empowered those around me to prioritize their own well-being. As I embraced this new way of living, I encountered challenges that tested my resolve. There were days when the pull of my old habits was overwhelming. I would find myself slipping back into the cycle of overwork, feeling the familiar grip of anxiety tightening around me. During these moments, I learned the importance of compassion for myself and for my journey. I began to understand that healing is not linear. It is a process filled with ups and downs. I learned to forgive myself for the setbacks and to celebrate the small victories along the way. One transformative experience that stands out in my journey was a weekend retreat I attended, focused on mindfulness and self-discovery. Surrounded by nature and a community of like-minded individuals, I felt a sense of belonging that I had longed for. The workshops challenged me to dive deeper into my emotions and confront the fears that had held me captive for so long. I participated in guided meditations, journaling exercises, and group discussions that opened my eyes to the power of vulnerability. It was during one of these sessions that I had a breakthrough moment, realizing that my worth was not defined by my productivity, but by my essence as a human being. As I continued to cultivate mindfulness in my daily life, I found that moments of inner peace began to emerge more frequently. I learned to savor the simple pleasures: a warm cup of tea, the sound of laughter, the beauty of a sunset. I began to practice gratitude, acknowledging the abundance in my life rather than fixating on what I lacked. Each day became an opportunity to embrace the present moment, to let go of the relentless pursuit of perfection. Gradually, the tumultuous storm that had once raged within me began to calm. I discovered a profound sense of tranquility that I had never experienced before. My relationships flourished as I became more present and engaged, allowing me to connect with others on a deeper level. I found joy in the work I did, not because I was striving for accolades, but because I was aligned with my values and passions. Looking back, I realized that the journey from burnout to inner peace was not just about overcoming challenges. It was about transformation. It was about shedding the layers of expectation and societal pressure that had weighed me down, and embracing the authenticity of who I am. I learned that true fulfillment comes from within, not from external validation. Today, I carry the lessons of my journey with me. I continue to prioritize self-care, set boundaries, and nurture my relationships. I have cultivated a life that honors my well-being, and while challenges still arise, I face them with a newfound resilience. My journey is ongoing, but I am grateful for the struggles that led me to this place of inner peace. I am no longer just surviving. I am thriving, and for the first time in a long time, I feel whole.